All right. So today I will talk about design thinking outside the creative industry context. If I wonder if anyone has heard of the term design thinking before. Yeah, I'm seeing some hands raising up. Cool. But if you have not, don't worry. We'll be able to move along just fine. So before we begin, I would like to start this session with a quick check-in. Julie have a question, so this is my question for you today. All right, so can you see the questions?
Yep.
What is the one thing that drives you forward in life? So you can answer this question by renaming yourself. You can do this by clicking on your video or the menu three dot icons on the top right of your video, and you will see the name option in the drop-down menu. So when you're done changing your name, turn off your video and to gallery side. So we can see each other answer.
Repeat, everyone. If you guys, the way you change your name is if you hover over your screen, you will see like three dots. If you click on the three dots, you will see an option to rename. So rename yourself to the question that Ngọc Triệu mentioned. What is it that's driving you? So you should be able to see, for example, Ngọc Triệu has curiosity and I have community impact. I can still see a lot of names. So, okay, I can see names being changed now. Yeah. So again, how you do that? So the question was, what is it that's driving you in life? Is that correct, Ngọc Triệu? And you can answer by clicking on the three dots. If you hover with your mouse over your video, and there's an option when you click on the three dots to rename yourself. And in there, you can answer, what is it that's driving you in life?
So if you see the gallery view right now, you can see everyone answer. So I see kindness, adventures, curiosity, yay, knowledge, money, happiness.
I love it. Somebody's so honest. Money. I wanted to put as well, but politically correct or not. There's someone said new experiences, happiness, having fun. Yeah. Adventures and joy, fulfillment, shared fulfillment.
Awesome. Anyone willing to tell me more about your answer? Like, what is this reason for behind your answer? Feel free to unmute yourself and start sharing. Anyone?
I think Hi. Did you unmute yourself? I don't think Hi has renamed himself. Actually, can I, Ngọc, if that's okay, can I choose someone?
Sure.
Okay, guys, sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm really intrigued by the answer that you mentioned in here. How about the person who mentioned money? I really like that. So I'm going to, I have the ability to unmute you. So, I've just unmuted you. I think you should be able to speak. Would you like to mention the reason behind your answer? Okay, maybe it's not. Let me try and find someone. Let's try and find someone else. We have someone called Passion. They've mentioned passion. So let me try. I'll ask to unmute. And if you can mention the reason why passion is driving you. Hello?
That's fine, Mani. As Annie said, I don't want to put anyone in the spot today. But the reason behind these questions is that this is gonna be the one thing that drives you toward this kind of the motivation for us today, because this time is strange and we need happiness, we need kindness, we need knowledge in our life today to just keep us going. All right. Thank you for doing the exercise, and you're encouraged to keep your new names during the session, but you're also welcome to change back to your real names as well. I will begin with my, I will start share screen again. Okay, so first of all, I would like, so we have the two topics today that we have is design thinking and talking to stranger. I'm just gonna talk about why I'm qualified to talk about this topic. First of all, as a design researcher, I talk to stranger and get to know their story quite a lot. Within the about 3 weeks only, if I remember correctly, I have reached out and talked to approximately 20 plus new people, virtually, of course, because of the reason of this just strange period of time. But also 7 years ago, I started a project that is called People I've Met. And this is the kind of project where I just go out onto the street and talk to people that I came across from all parts of life. Some of them, in fact, have become my very good friend until today, and we're still in touch. But before all that, believe me or not, I was really scared of talking to a stranger, to people in general. I don't even know if scared is the right word of choice, but I was always hesitant to do that. Kind of shaking, like the feeling when you have too much coffee. But that would happen to me anytime I wanted to reach out to a person. So this kind of happened all the time when I was in London, or on the escalator down the tube, or on the street when I saw someone walking in front of me with their backpacks open. When you see someone with their backpacks open, you can just like, hey, your backpack is open, right? You want to just give them a heads up for that. I wanted to reach out to them and say that, but I never could. And it kind of bugged me. Like I couldn't sleep at night if I just didn't manage to reach out to them. So I'm not this kind of person who would just let this go easily. And so I thought to myself, well, I needed to do something about this. It's really simple. And during the same time back in 2012, so that 2013 something, I was also very inspired by Brandon Stanton, Human of New York. I traveled quite a lot as well, and also had a lot of opportunity to meet so many interesting people, and I wanted to have a place to gather and share their stories. The format seemed pretty easy to follow. It's a one-person team going out onto the street and talking to a random stranger. He has a camera. I also have a camera. We are both very able persons. So I figured out that if Brandon could do it, so could I. Or at least I could try it. But I was so wrong. It was so terrifying. One of the reasons why is that Brandon was probably a grown-up man, and when I was doing that, I was merely past the drinking age in Vietnam, so it's really scared the hell out of me. I didn't know if I could do this. I kind of have to because I already started a Facebook page and kind of advertising about, oh, hey guys, I'm gonna do this, and we will have story for you. So I kind of figured out that I need a different approach than just go out and take my camera, a more constructive one or step-by-step one that I can just follow. So this is kind of when I started to think about design thinking outside of a professional setting. I knew that I should prepare myself both physically and mentally before stepping out into the world. So I got a camera with me that I use as an excuse. I started in Vietnam and so grateful that people seem to be very friendly and they really like to have their photo taken. So it's a good excuse to start the conversations. I also know some martial arts as well, just in case something bad happened. And so yeah, that's how I started People I've Met. And a year and a half later, I think I have talked to about 70 people, both familiar strangers and perfect stranger. So if you can see this gallery, this is the people that I come across from all parts of life. The lady on the top bottom top left, I met her in Sapa, and then we also the guys in this anonymous masses. I met them during a protest in London. They just got from everywhere. And they both teach me something about life, whether it's about kindness, about passions, about belief, standing up for what you believe in. But for myself, I have two lessons that I've learned from all this experience. The first thing is that I learned that there are things that are easier to share with strangers than with your loved ones. This is before I came across this Why Strangers Meet, a book by Kyo Stark, in which she shared research about that explained this very revelation of mine. Furthermore, there's no consequences in sharing your story with a stranger, so they don't know who you are, where you're from, and most importantly, you can just walk away right after, free of judgment. But second of all, when you it's hard to open with your family member because sometimes we just have these assumptions and expectations that we have in our mind that they would be able to understand whatever we talk about even before we speak our mind. And I think that's very true for at least in my case. So that's my first lessons. My second lesson would be, I think it's more like a reconfirmation rather than a lesson, because talking to people are terrifying. And I learned that and I confirmed that after trying so many times. It was really hard then and it's still really hard now with just general people, not even stranger. So I guess this is not a total irrational fear because, we have this term stranger danger and bad things would always happen. I think that growing up in Vietnam, I could still recall my mom's voice before dropping me off at school when I was small, and she reminded me that I should never go talk to a stranger while waiting for her to pick me up. It's just something that I've grown up with. So talking to strangers really terrifies me. Why do I keep doing it? And somehow I even managed to make that part of my job too. Well, this is why. This is how I see the world. Every person's either books of different kind of genre, of different thickness, of different material. One could be a thin magazine, a comic, a novel. Another could be a non-fiction, or even a dictionary. So I learned that everybody has a different story, a story of their own that they have been writing for themselves. And so talking to them for me is like reading a book. I get to learn something new, get to be inspired, to travel to places and see new things that I would never been able to if I hadn't picked up the book and opened it in the first place. So after all, talking to strangers have essentially changed the way that I see the world. And most importantly, it keeps me going and pushes me through my comfort zone. So when I started to looking at talking to strangers from a different perspective, I also started to think more about design thinking, less as a method, but more like a mindset. After all, it's still a creative problem-solving method, right? So now I just have to change and reframe my challenge. So my challenge here is to get over my fear of reaching out to new people and letting myself be inspired by their story. So before we jump into the exercise stuff, I will just walk you through a bit about the history of design thinking. So it all began in 1969. Men walked the moon, but also with when Herbert Simon, an economist, politician, and cognitive psychologist, started to think of design as a way of thinking. During the 1980s, when Brian Lawson started to write a book that is called How Design a Thing. It was the first time that someone applied design thinking to architectural discourse. At the same time, Nigel Cross applied design thinking or design general in education. And then we all know about IDEO, right? Maybe not, but I'm just gonna give a brief introduction. IDEO is like one of the biggest world design consultancy firm in the world. And its founder, David Kelly, he was a designer that designed Apple first mouse. He was the first one. He and Tim Brown, the CEO, was the first people that kind of applied design to business. And fast forward to today, you and me, 2020, probably the first people that applied it, starting into talking to stranger. I hope so, and I really have this kind of hope that we are really making history by doing this. All right, so design thinking have 4 steps. So this is my redrawn of the design thinking process based on the diagram originally created by Stanford Design School. So why a design approach? So there are many advantages in using a design thinking or human-centered design approach outside the industry. First is about putting people first. So no matter what you're trying to do, whether for yourself, like improving your speaking skill, or for someone like getting the right gift, a human-centered design approach would bring you to the main focus, which is about human needs. And that's why I start with empathize. And then with define, ideate, and prototype test, it would just focus and really emphasize on inclusive communication, collaboration, and iterations, which is about co-working, learning from one another in order to improve the design results. So what do design thinking and talking to strangers have in common? Well, hang in there. I'm not giving you my answer yet, but like I encourage you to keep thinking of your own answer for now. How are we gonna do this? How might we talk to strangers using design thinking? Well, before we move on, I hope that you have your pen and paper nearby, or just anything that you can take note on, which works just fine. All right, awesome. So we all start with empathize, but not with your client, like in a normal design thinking sprint, but with yourself. Think of yourself as a designer and think of this as your own design missions. Ask yourself these questions: what brings you joy? What hold you back? Allowing yourself some quiet time and really look deep inside. So you have about 3 minutes to answer this question. If it's not enough, it's all right, just keep it in the back of your mind. You can write the answer down, but you can also just take a mental note. So while we are here learning about how to have a great conversations, think about what makes the conversation deep and meaningful, and what does that mean for you. So for me, when I think about a good conversation, I think of the kind of conversations that I live, knowing that I've learned something new, and that I usually feel incredibly inspired and grateful. But sometimes it can just be a good time spent where I feel comfortable exchanging my thoughts and my feeling with someone else. Because ultimately, great conversation is about opening up. It's when you both being honest and vulnerable in front of each other. So they have this saying that I really like: people meet from disclosure to disclosure. I know that it's very difficult and scary sometimes, but I promise you that when you start opening up about your own insecurity to someone else, and when you both exchange that moment, it will be very rewarding. So next in the diagram, we have defined. So now we're going to define your challenge. Why do you need to talk to strangers? What does talking to strangers means to you? And so what do you want to get out of the conversations? Well, so I already shared with you my reasons. That is, I really like to talk to strangers because I find that I can learn a lot from them. So to help you define yours, I have a template that I call the problem statement. So use this answer from your previous exercise, what brings you joy and what holding you back. Use them to help you define your challenge. Feel free to take a screenshot of this template and come back to it later if you can't answer it now. I will give you my example first to help you kind of navigate this thing. So Ngọc needs a way to, so for example, I need a way to get to know more about the story of the people that I've met, because I can learn a lot about them and from them, and often get really inspired. I will give you guys 5 minutes to do this, and I will keep timer for that. All right, so we have 5 minutes. hope you're all doing this, but if you have any difficulty in answer or filling in this template, feel free to just drop the questions in the chat box. I have a question from the chat box. Could you give an example of how surprisingly could be used in this sentence? Yeah, I can change it to Ngọc needs a way to get to know more about the story of the people that she has met. Surprisingly, because she can learn a lot from them. So that could also be used interchangeable as well. But it could also be something that about, you know, contradictory as well. I need to find a way to get to know more about people, but surprisingly, I'm scared of talking to them. So use this kind of insight to get you define your own challenge, because it's important to keep you focused on the goal, whatever your challenge be. We have about 1 minute and 30 seconds left. I will share with you guys the link to my slide because someone having experience in connecting. So how do I do this? Okay, sure. In case you don't see the right slide, I will put it put the link in the chat box. There you go. Oh, but I will do this to everyone as well. That's 5 minutes, guys. I hope you get your challenge defined. But if not, carry on. It's all right. We can always go back to that. It's very difficult and somehow pretty demanding for you to do it, to be able to do it right now. But that's all right. Next is to the next phase of the design thinking process. We'll have idea. This is usually we use this kind of exercise, this phrase to define all sort of, to brainstorming all sort of idea that we have that might be the solutions. But for now, for today's challenge, we will focus on 2 solutions only. So how might we ask and how might we listen? First of all, the right questions. So being a researcher for me, asking the right questions simply because that is very important, because that's one question only can have the power to influence the whole scope and direction of the research. For good conversations, asking the right questions means that you already have the way. How are you? How many of you have greeted other people by saying, how are you, or how you're doing lately? Raise your hand. Yes, I do this unconsciously sometimes. But to be honest, when being asked this question, I honestly don't know how to answer that. Like, do you really want to know? How much detail do you want me to give you? Or you either get not bad, so okay, and then you move on, or you get like a speech of what just happened to me recently. And up until now, even though I'm still doing it, I don't know how to approach this kind of question. So how do we improve that? How are you mentally and physically? I have to admit that this is not the better questions, not the best, but I think it's an improvement. It gives people some some guiding. So how might we ask the better questions? This mural right here features some of the questions that I like a lot. Instead of what's new, you can ask them, what title would you give this chapter in your life? Or what do you do? You know, when you ask someone what they do for a living, you can ask, what are you most passionate about? So these kind of questions allow people to include more information, including feelings, attitudes, and understanding. So they all have something in common, which is it's all open-ended questions. What was that like? How does that feel? So start with the hows and the WS question, like what, when, where, which, and who. Just one reminder that be careful with the whys, because when you ask something, some people, why do you do that, and why does that happen? They tend to just make up a rational reason instead of giving you some real insight. So instead of asking why, say, please tell me more, or please elaborate on that. So think of the question. So in order to do this, think of this question that you would like to be asked. That think about the question that would make you smile or feel really proud to talk about. Think of the questions that make you think deeply or differently, or help you reveal something about yourself. So asking this kind of question will have you unlock a deeper understanding of yourself and also of others. So just by changing the way that you ask the questions, it can allow people to talk more and be more ready to share with you. So that's about 50% of the job, asking the questions. So here is the other half. As you might already guess, it's about listening. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. It's a quote by Stephen Covey, the businessman. I think that this is very true, at least for myself. Sometimes it's a natural, it's natural of people to listen and then to keep asking more questions because we want to find more information. But sometimes listening, so which is why we all have these kind of intentions. So how might we listen to understand? We think about what we started with. We start with empathizing. So just remember everybody has their own story, their own way of doing things, and they all have been on their own journeys. We don't know what they've been through, so just let them be themselves. If you find yourself talking, that's when you stop listening, and that's when you probably stop learning. Also try not to assert your opinion on everything that they say, like this is good or this is so bad. Just let them be themselves. So how do you need to prepare for this? Have a big heart to empathize, have big ears for active listening, clear eyes to read people language and to notice, but most importantly, hold assumption lightly. I'd like to share with you guys one of the listening experience that I've done. But we are not going to do this now. This is a story of listening at 3 different levels: the facts, the feeling, and the purpose. This is also known as listening with the head, which is looking for the fact, with the heart, that's when you're listening and finding the feeling, and the feet, which is when you're looking for purpose. So in the exercise, I was divided into a group of 4 people with 3 other people, and one of us kind of volunteered to tell a story that they are comfortable to share. It could be an incident or situations that is not just satisfied, and that they would want to have a different outcome. So one person in the group would listen only for the facts. The other would only listen to and focus on the feeling. That was me. I was only listening for the feeling that was implicated throughout the story, and the other person should just focus on listening for the purpose. And then after this exercise, we came back together, and it really surprised me how we were all listening to the same story, but the story that we have was completely different. But then in an everyday life setting, at least during this exercise that we have today, I strongly recommend you to just go for the heart, because that's how we started to connect with each other. And the fourth step of the design thinking process would be prototype. And in order to do this exercise, little demonstrations, I would need a volunteer.
So there's a person, I think, called herself Shared Fulfillment, who has raised her hand. So Shared Fulfillment, you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to be. Oh no.
Hi.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
going to find your video so I can look at you.
Oh, sure. I raised my hand for the "How are you?" question, and I forgot to lower it.
Are you still?
But yeah, I'm happy to volunteer.
Awesome.
But let me turn on my camera. Hi.
All right, thank you a lot for volunteering. So you managed to sit outside for the sessions. That's wonderful. Are you sitting outside?
Oh no, I'm at home in my room.
All right, sorry, the video was kind of small, but it's just a really bright background. Awesome. Where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Ho Chi Minh.
In Ho Chi Minh. So it's like 10 p.m.
Yes, 1:15.
Okay. So I haven't really read the news these days, but is everything back to normal in Ho Chi Minh City? Like, are you working from home? Or are you back to the office?
We lifted lockdown about 3.5 weeks ago. I've been back to the office for almost a month.
Oh, okay.
Everything is quite okay.
How did you find the experience? So what have been keeping you sane lately? Because it's been a very strange time for everyone.
Oh, I don't know. It was bizarre, but it felt like a long time ago. I learned that I'm very much of an introvert, so I actually was fine being confined. And also I found that it opened many doors, even for me. So because of the lockdown, I couldn't travel back to see my father. I used to go every 2 weeks to see him. But because of that, I actually video called him every morning. And I think the contact time was a lot more, surprisingly. So yeah, I guess I took out more positive stuff from it.
So where is your father right now?
He's in Cần Thơ. I'm from Cần Thơ originally.
Right.
I'm going to see him tomorrow.
And that's exciting. It's what I also spend time a lot with, trying to connect with people during this time as well, because we have so much time in our hand. So what would you say that has changed for you from the past 3 months being locked down?
What has changed? Oh, I always struggle with this question because I think everything changes every day. I don't know how to theme it. I guess I have reconnected with more people because now there are no borders, and you can just reach out and say, how are you going? Like for real, if you're really concerned. But before that, I always felt like I had to have a good reason when I reconnected with people, like to catch up on, and yeah, just for it to be like a not a very shallow conversation. So I think that has changed. One of the changes.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your experience and story. And also, yeah, I think that's part of our prototype. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
So that was our quick little prototype for everyone. Thank again. That was nice to learn something new about you share fulfillment. So before we will have some exercise is for the last phase of the design thinking process, which is testing. But before that, I have some tips for you guys. You have the do and the don't. So do put on a smile and give a compliment. So trying to find that triangular common point to both talk about. But then if you're in a real physical space, try not to approach stranger in a non-public space, and especially don't approach them from the back. This is something I learned, that you wouldn't want the first impressions to be a stutter, right? You don't want to stutter them. So don't try to do that. Try to stay in the present, listening and really listening, and not to multitasking. So don't, take notes or having another question in the back of your mind, but really focus on the present, in the present, and trying to stay in the present. Try to ask open-ended questions, but do not judge. Say, I don't know, feel free to say that. Be honest if you don't know something, but try not to say, I know exactly how you feel, because honestly, I don't think we do. Everybody has a different experience. You will never know where they've come from. So it's kind of not nice to say how exactly, I know exactly how you feel, or I know, bro. I know that we have the intention to say that a lot, but trying to step away from that. But last but not least, listen to understand, but don't listen to it with the intention to reply. So we have some sort of guideline to do this. You will be partnered with a random stranger through Zoom breakout functions. So between the two of you, decide who would be the storyteller and who would be the listener. You can switch through after 5 minutes, but you can also feel free to go on if you don't want to switch. We will pull you back to the main session after 10 minutes. We will have a link for you with, I prepared for you a question card. If you see the link on the screen, I prepared a bunch of questions for you guys to choose from, and you feel free to use them as a conversation starter. So if you are a listener, which means you're asking the first questions, after that, you should just listen without any interruption or any comments. Only ask questions where you needed to, and keep the conversation going. But if you are the storyteller, which means you're being asked, try not to block anything. Feel free to go wherever the story takes you. Enjoy telling the story, and try to be detailed, be creative, be curious, and just don't be afraid of silence if that ever happened. All right, if you have any questions for the sessions, please speak now or comment in the chat box. If not, I guess we can start breaking out.
Okay, so I will be the person who breaks you out. You should be automatically be assigned to another person. So one thing, if you wait for a bit, I'm going to assign a room now. So 3, 2, 1, create breakout rooms. If you have any questions, there will be a function where you can ask for help. and myself as a host, I could actually join the room and help you out if you have any questions. So I'm going to break out the room now. Open all rooms. So you should be able to join the rooms now. If you see your name, click on join and meet a stranger. Yeah, keep going. Everyone's almost there. Nice. We still have 6 people that still have to join. Yeah, keep going, keep going. Any problems, put it in the chat so I can help you, or ask for help. Okay, my, I can see Tú Anh Trần. So yeah, my, I can see that you unassigned. Just wait for a bit. Explore, Hiền Điệp, my, Cha Trần, Tú Anh Trần. Can I ask you to join the rooms, please? Right. So, okay, Tú Anh, you are done. Hiền Điệp, you, I think fulfillment is waiting for you, Hiền. My, I'm going to assign you to another room. I don't think that Hiền Điệp might be here. And even if Hiền, you're here, you're free to join. So let me assign you to room number 7. Mai, are you able to join? You should be able to join the breakout room 7. Ngọc Triệu, can I, you curiosity, right? Let me assign you to breakout room 7. I think someone is waiting. And okay, Hiền Điệp just joined it. Okay. And then there's someone in curiosity. So I'm going to move you. No, might not be here. Okay. Yeah, I think everyone, cool. Now wait. You can unmute yourself now. Wait. I think everyone is assigned.
Okay.
My, I'm not sure if you're on here. We can actually have a session among us 3 here.
Yeah. Oh, I can. So you guys can have the room. But Mai, you hearing not? I think we can just
Maybe if not, then are you timing this?
I'm timing this.
Do you want to like practice between? Actually, let me put on the. I'm gonna turn on the. Okay. Now.
Want to be a storyteller, or do you want to be a listener?
Can I be the listener? Because
Sure.
I feel the challenge of asking question is quite difficult. Like ask. Okay, so
So ask away.
if you got a free plane ticket, where would you go?
Free plane ticket. Do you have a season for that? Any season?
Say the summer. This upcoming summer.
Dublin, Ireland.
Ireland.
Yeah, it's my favorite place to go in the world. I would like to go there. You live in Irish pub crawl and spend the summer hiking to the cliff of Moher.
Okay. And what are the highlights of Ireland that you would recommend?
I think it's all started back in when I was 15 years old. I kind of there's this movie that I really like that is called Once. So this features the story of musicians and just love story, but it's not really about love. It's more about music, and just find myself like these movies a lot. And I always wanted to see him singing live.
Mhm.
And it's all tied together. And when I came to the UK, so we started to drink beer, and among all the different beer, I like Guinness the most. So so Guinness also Irish. So all
Yeah.
tied together. I think that I had something, there's some destiny kind of waiting for me in Ireland. So I decided just to go there. And it's like magic, like the music is amazing, the scenery is amazing. I really enjoy the hikes that I have with my friend. We spent 10 days hiking the Bolton and also went on an Irish pub crawl and watching live music. Didn't manage to run across him busking in Dublin because I know that sometimes my favorite singer in the one in the movie sometimes go on this busking tour.
Busking? What's busking?
Performing music on the street.
Oh.
So I didn't manage to see him, but we also trying to go to all the filming location that was featured in the movie.
I want to ask a follow-up question. I know it's like why, but then why is like, I know you did mention that asking why somebody might, come up with rational, but in this case, like, why are you visiting those places in those movies? Like, especially you mentioned like the love places, was it? Why the romance was filmed?
I think I like listing out things and I like to have them check. So before I go, I don't really know much about Ireland except for the music and except for the like cliff, so for the cliff. And so I kind of want to do, so what would be a nice thing to do that allowed me to see the cities, but also have a kind of unusual experience. I didn't really go to see all the, famous destinations, but more like, I feel like it would be amazing to take a screenshot of everywhere that I've been and then trying to compare that, trying to project myself in the real space that was fish in the film.
Yeah.
But now.
Oh, one person just joined. I think Fong is someone who just recently joined.
Yeah.
Hello, Fong, can you hear us? Fong, you have the ability to unmute yourself. Also, Ngọc Triệu, how many minutes left?
I think we have three.
Three, okay. I'm not sure if people have changed, like pick up from storyteller to listener. Whether we either we finish it in 3 minutes or I can mention now swap and then we give it another 5 minutes. Hello? Phóng? Hello, who is?
Không vừa nói chuyện đâu, trời ơi đừng gọi, các bạn nói chuyện với nhau đi.
Okay. No worries. Ngọc Triệu, should we give them another 5 minutes or just end in 3 minutes?
I think we can give them like a notice of how much time that we have left.
Okay. 3 minutes. 3 minutes left, everyone. Is it 3 minutes? Yeah.
3 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If you could have the entire world attention for 5 minutes, what would you do?
Sorry, if
you have the entire world attention for 5 minutes, what would you do?
Oh, Wow. Okay. So first thing is I'm looking at the world and what are like the biggest human existential challenges of our time. I think the biggest challenge of our time today is, I think, climate change. So if I had 5 minutes of everyone's attention, I would love to use those 5 minutes in the most efficient way to explain why climate change is an existential threat to humanity, and also how I can help um, basically inform people and also help them to take actions and follow the right climate activists.
Have you been participating in any of the movement or been any of the protest or demonstration about climate change before?
So I wanted to join. Greta Thunberg's Friday for Future, Future for Friday, or Friday for Future, in London, but I wasn't able to find it online. I know it happens every Friday, and I wanted to actually go to one, but I never managed to. But there's a couple of things. I mean, I've done to sort of help the climate. My diet is more plant-based now. I try to save electricity by not using it when it's not needed. But I've never joined a movement, but I'd love to.
Climate change. It's so hard that you know when you know that it's really happening, but then I don't know, but there's so many things that I unconsciously do that is not really environmentally friendly. Trying to
Yes, it's difficult. I think climate change has to go into, I think, education. It needs to be part of the education syllabus across, like, for everyone, especially kids. And I think a lot of our parents' generation, they have built up habits that are not environmentally friendly, and changing them is not easy. It's not their fault. I think it does have to come from, I think, the top, so the government, so that they can create policies that help people change their behavior. So one thing I've seen in Germany is that they sort of, I think you've seen it, like fund. So, when you buy a bottle of drink, you actually you pay like extra 50 cents, right? And you can get back the 50 cents if you go and recycle it.
Yeah.
So these type of incentives that actually help. So I think it does have to come from government. Or if you buy like solar panels, you get subsidies from the government. I'm looking at time. I think I'm going to close all the rooms then. Should I? Okay, I'm going to say, okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to close all the rooms. 15 seconds. Everyone's going to join back. 15 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Like asking questions, the art of asking questions. As a product manager, one of the best skills, or like one of the important skills, is know how to ask questions to try and understand the underlying problem that a user has. Anyways, that's regarding my job. I think everyone's back now. Okay, so
it was too short. We didn't manage to finish our stories.
Yeah, we were interrupted as well.
Yeah.
What did you say, Hans, Chung?
I think we already schedule drinks when things back to normal to continue.
Oh.
Well, you can
That's too fast.
You can find each other on the. You should be able to see, or like at least in the chat, send someone privately a message. So if you haven't finished your story, always there.
Cool.
I hope that you guys enjoy the exercise. I would like to hear some of your reflection after the exercise. Is anyone willing to share that if you've learned something from your partner, how was your experience? Did you learn, what is the most exciting things and frustrating thing that you've got from this exercise?
Is there any volunteer?
Yeah, happy to volunteer first. No one wants to go for it.
Okay. Impact and family, Gwyn. Go ahead.
Okay. So So my I think my match was Obin, who's I mean I think we have briefly met before, and so we didn't have to do the whole meet and greet, and it's not exactly strangers. We're not exactly strangers, but we have never had a chance to talk properly. So I think that was interesting. First observation is I think we both found the questions to be amazing. Like these are some of the best icebreaker questions that we've seen. So just like really enjoyed browsing through the questions and pick one. So my question for Obin was, if you were to meet someone for 10 minutes, who would you choose? And I think when I ask that questions, I tend to think that people would probably choose like a celebrity or like someone from the past that they can revert time and like talk to Jesus or something. I don't know. But I think it was super interesting that Obin chose his grandfather. I mean, I don't want to share stuff that personal to Obin here, but I think that was super interesting, and I think I learned a lot about him just from that answer itself. And I think when he asked me, I think his question to me was, if my life was a book, then what would the title be? And I think I have a bit of a cop out, and I say it's going to be called A Joyful Life. Well, like The Joyful Life of Gwyn, for example, because I don't think it's we can summarize our life in a title or in a few words. And I think I told Obin as well that the most important factor in life for me is family, and I think that's kind of where we found a common theme in our answer. So I don't know if that's observations enough, but yeah. I mean, I don't know if Obin wants to speak up as well.
No, yeah, I think we've connected quite well in those just 3 minutes. So it was very interesting. Just yeah, because we never properly spoke before, and I guess that's has something to do with what you mentioned before. There was like sometimes you can open up to a stranger much more than to somebody you actually love or somebody who's close to you. So sometimes it's just sometimes it's because there's so much sort of, you could say, emotional baggage if you talk to your friend or somebody you know, because you feel like, well, if I'm not going to say this, maybe it's going to be too personal, maybe they're going to feel weird. But when you actually talk to a stranger, somebody you don't know that well, it's more liberty or freedom to like re-express yourself. So I think that was pretty interesting and cool.
Thank you guys for sharing your experience. Is anyone else also willing to share your experience of the exercise?
Hey, I can share as well. So I was talking to Chung, so who's also in the video here as having fun. So we didn't know each other beforehand. So we took a few minutes for introduction, but we also kind of briefed through a couple of points on what have we found of value in terms of change for ourselves during this pandemic time, because I really like that question from Ngọc earlier as well. So I asked him that question, and we kind of came to an agreement that we became a lot more healthier during this pandemic time, because we started to kind of cook more green food and cook more for ourselves instead of going out to restaurant or like ordering in. So we know exactly what we put into our body. And so that's kind of built up on our kind of health consciousness that we didn't really have. Well, I didn't really have before this pandemic time. I'm not sure if Chung has the same opinion, but that's something that we are in agreement. So yeah.
I think we connected quite easily. We had like a lot of like very similar opinions and very similar like experiences like going through right now. So yeah, I think we had a really nice chat. And like, yeah.
Absolutely.
I would also like to share my experience as well. For the first 3 minutes, I was by myself until I came back to the main room, and there was Anne, and I would talk to each other. I think there's some silence as well, and it's kind of normal for me, because when I first listening to anyone else answer to such a kind of open question, I usually take time to process the answer. So, but sometimes I think the most difficult thing for me is to feel the urge to have to respond right away. So I also kind of think so I just kind of have this right then, and I kind of feel like, okay, so I don't have to, it's difficult because I don't want to say something stupid to, when they are being open up like that. But also having the silence also not very comfortable. But so what I've learned from that is that I think it's okay that silence happened. What you can do is that sometimes you can also repeat the answers to see if you really understand what they're talking about, and then see how that will lead up. I don't know. That's my experience. I learned something about Anne, but I don't know how that was for Anne. Do you want to share your experience talking with me?
Yeah. So I think what you mentioned is so true. I asked Ngọc the question, if you got a free plane ticket, where would you go? And Ngọc mentioned Ireland, and literally in my head I was like, well, tell her you were in Ireland in February as well. And then in my head I was like, no, listen. So so it's quite how should I say, like, challenging, because you have these you just automatically want to respond, right? But it's just to remind yourself and be aware. It's like, okay, you want to ask a question, but listen. So I was able to like stop the urge to like respond straight away and listen to your story.
I know that's right, because if you say that you were in February in Ireland, I would possibly direct all the questions back to you.
I think that's super interesting because especially, I don't know, with COVID-19 and everyone's being on virtual calls. I don't know if everyone has the same experience, but I tend to see that there's always a bit of a delay and a bit of a lag when you talk through Zooms or Google Meets or whatever. So I think, and again, it's like you always have this awkward period where everyone's kind of speaking on top of each other because there was a bit of a delay. So people think that someone was staying silent and you have to speak up. So I think the importance of silence that you just pointed out is even more important during COVID-19, and you just give everyone like space and a few seconds just for them to finish their sentence or let them continue their thought or something. So I don't know, just an observation as well.
Well, thank you everyone for the exercise and for sharing your experience. We will have a few minutes left for Q&A. If you have any questions, I think again you can send them by chat or just unmute yourself and ask me. I'm gonna go through the chat again.
Can I ask one right
hi.
away? Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Well, I think
go on.
because we have this. Okay. All right. Who am I speaking to?
Hi, Nicole here. I wanted to ask you, the project that you mentioned earlier, that you kind of like put yourself out there and went and talked to like 70 different people, strangers essentially, to collect their stories. I find that just absolutely incredible. Would you like to share was there any particular encounter with a stranger that you felt like this was quite like a defining moment of that project?
Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna go back. I actually have and select some of the photo here. It's actually some of the most memorable stories I've got from them. You just can see my screen. So
yeah, we can.
The picture on the third from the left. So if anyone of you are familiar with with Grandpa, we call him Grandpa a lot, and he actually a very famous actor in Vietnam, very respectful man. And I came across him when I was. So first of all, I want to say that not all of them are completely strangers. Some of them are familiar stranger, and a familiar stranger is someone that you recognize from being regularly sharing a common physical space, but you don't really interact with. So I think I was in a film crew and we were filming him. And it was very incredible that he had such a high profile acting career, but that he was still willing to do this for the student and to volunteer to do it for free. And what I learned from him is that I learned about passions. I think I was doing my gap year back then, 2013, also the year that I started my project. It was one of my gap year project. So kind of lost because I just dropped out of university after 1 year. I didn't like it there, so I came back to Vietnam. And talking to him taught me a lot about passions and to have the bravery to be brave, to follow your passions. You know, acting in Vietnam is very difficult. It's not like Hollywood. The pay is not very high and it's really struggle. You have to be on set from 6 p.m. to 7 or even in like 2 in the morning. And but being him, he been in this professional for about, I think I would say more than 20 years, 40 years. And he still used the same backpack that he was given 45 years ago, that was given to him by the School of Performing and Acting in Vietnam. And that just kind of struck me. You don't have to look anywhere else for your passions. You have to look inside of you and truly listen to your heart. And then what he said that is gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be very challenging. It's gonna be so many bumps on the road. But whenever you have, you know, any obstacle in life, just look back to that and use that as a beacon that keeps shining your way. And so yeah, it's a very interesting encounter as well, because having this advice and feedback from someone who is really experienced, and after 50 years, he's still doing that.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for this talk. It's super interesting.
Thank you for your questions. I have a few questions in the chat box. I'm gonna, from Helpfulness, can you share a source of, for example, a book for learning design thinking? Yeah, I don't have any design thinking book on my right now, but let's say, how about you reach out to me after this session? The first thing that I can think is you can go to IGO.org, dio.com, and they will have a thing that is called a toolkit for human-centered design. Yeah, so I think that you can start with that to see how design thinking has been applied and used within the creative economy and also outside the creative industry. Another thought is to go to the D School, Stanford D School. Is there another question from Nguyen? Is there any design framework that you think can be applied into our daily life? I would say human-centered design would be a very big umbrella to cover all of this. And also design thinking is not like a linear process as well. You can create your own framework from mixing up the steps. So today, as we're using design thinking, I kind of twist that a little bit. We don't really have any user in this case, but rather than yourself. So that's how I've been using design thinking. Another design framework that I would recommend would be Sprint. I wouldn't say that is a design-oriented method, but Sprint also can be applied in any other situation outside of a product design sphere. So it's when you come to work with teamwork or any other challenge that you can apply this different steps for Sprint. And you know, from brainstorming to ideating to rationale and find a solution for that. I think I'm rambling. Sorry, guys.
No, thank you. That helps.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, so thank you, Aaron. If you still have questions, we still have 7 minutes, but before...
There is one in the chat. Sorry.
Awesome, yeah. There's another
Just
one from Shed Fulfillment.
How should we be prepared to respond to instant of disclosure? Well, I would say the first thing to say that is not to say anything, especially staying away from saying, I know how exactly you feel. It really depends on what kind of disclosure that you are having. It could be something that is really deep, really personal, or really, say, sensitive. Share fulfillment, would you have any specific example that you would want to give, like to be more elaborate on this instant of disclosure that you mentioned?
Yes, I was thinking about what if you know they're in danger, and again you are still just a stranger. Like, to what extent can you take responsibility or try to help or provide support?
All right. I wouldn't. It's a very difficult question, to be honest. I think we have this experience in Vietnam a long time ago where my friends started a project that is called Cái Hố Đen, the black hole, where he's simply an artist wanted to just illustrate people's story. And a lot of people sent him very sensitive topic about, thought about suicide, thought about abuse, harassment, sexual harassment. It's very difficult for him to respond. But the thing is that they all come seeking help from him, whether he's not really professional to answer any of this. So as a kind of admin member, we try, so if the case really urgent, like these people having constant suicidal thought, we don't act on that, but instead we point them to professional help if we can, and if we know anyone that we know within the community. Those are the very challenging case. Other people about other cases like family violence or abuses within the family, we have that a lot as well. Again, we don't really know how to respond to this kind of story that they sent in. But what we do as storyteller, that we trying to illustrate that in a way that's not only having them be open up about the experience, because most of the time this kind of abusive victim don't really want to seek help because they feel embarrassed for some reasons. So by illustrating the experience with this picture, we kind of encourage them to be more open about the experience and trying to seek for help. I'm sorry, this is a very hard.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron. Thank you very much. Ngọc, is it okay for me to take over the screen again?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, everyone should be able to see my screen now. Thank you very much, everyone who spent their time, who came today to listen up. I hope that you enjoyed the session today. And the session today probably was definitely different than usual because you got to know someone. Not sure if you expected that. So if you liked our webinar today, please make sure that you donate to Blue Dragon and follow our Facebook page. We have more events coming over until mid of June, and each event brings with it, a different perspective, different value. And as you can see, we are around 60% there, and any donation is very valued to help us, make difference in Vietnam. So the way you can do it is there is a link provided there. If you click on that link, that will take you to our Just Giving page, or simply use your smartphone, turn on your camera and glove over the QR code that you can see here. And, you know, make sure that you do share our Squill Quest campaign to other friends. So what is upcoming? We have three really cool webinars coming up next week. So on the Saturday, 6th of June, we have design principles everyone can use in everyday life. The second one we have on Saturday is managing your personal finance. And on a Sunday following that, we have building your personal digital brand. Again, the speakers that we have joining us come from very various background. For the first one, it's a person from Vietnam that's going to be in Vietnamese. The second one is the two finance professionals based in the US. And the third one on a Sunday is by my personal employee who is going to talk about digital brand. So exciting stuff coming up. And once again, I'd like to say big thank you to Ngọc Triệu for making this a very interesting session. And guys, if you didn't manage to catch up with other friend and share your contact to grab a beer or like a virtual beer, do it now. Quickly search them in the participants group or in the chat. And yeah, thank you very much. And we hope to see you again in our next webinars.
Thank you a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ngọc.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Wait, can everyone? Guys, I'm just gonna post the links that I sent to Helpfulness earlier about design thinking resources. If you're still here, it's in the chat spot, okay? Feel free to, I actually have this this slide in case anyone wants to keep in touch about, and just feel free to reach out to me if you want to know more about what I do in design thinking, or just have a chat or in general.
Awesome. Cool. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, Helpfulness. Thanks, Happiness.
You committed impact.
Thank you.